Hello there. Brian, I had a really good feeling it was you. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you joining in. Third time's a charm, right? Going to try something a little different. This time we have the charging cord, and put my phone on a stand so it's not seems like I'm having some sort of nervous breakdown. But anyway, thanks for joining. Appreciate you. I hope this is worth your time. Uh, to me, time is very valuable. I'm a I'm a father of. I still got four kids in my house. I'm married. I've got a house to take care of. I've got a little bit of property to take care of. I've got pets. So I understand that time is certainly valuable. It's actually difficult for me to find time to do this, but it's probably even more difficult for people out there to find time just to join in and say hello. So appreciate you doing that. You're right. Time is very precious, and I think I'm not sure how old you are, Brian, but I think we're probably close in age. You may be younger than me. I'm just assuming that, but it's certainly you have to be aware, really aware of your time and how you spend it. And sometimes I'm not the greatest steward of time. I think sometimes I spend more time on things that I want to do more so than what my family wants. Um, I think I'm a little bit of a sometimes I can be a little bit too focused on things. I'm one of those that when I start something, I don't want to stop until I'm finished, and that bothers me sometimes. It can kind of gets me in a bad position. So, hey, Jace, how are you? Got Jace and Brian here. The Wind, welcome. How are y'all? Hopefully, y'all are doing well today. Good deal, The Wind. Appreciate it. Jace, you're not sad. Well, that's good. The world itself can drive you into a sad state. Um, I try really hard to be positive, if you will, about everything I do. Sometimes that gets on people's nerves. I'm one of those that could be having the worst day ever, but I'll still um, still be joking around and trying to promote a positive vibe. Yeah, I hope so as well, Brian. I really really hope to have Mike's involvement. Mike, like I said earlier, Mike has really been my inspiration. Um, I really hope to one day be able to walk the uh, Air and Space Museum with him. That would be an awesome video. Just me and him chilling together and walking around the Smithsonian, looking at all the aircraft. It's always been a dream to mine to visit the Air and Space Museum, and I had an opportunity once working for an airline. I could have easily flown up there and visited, and I did not take the opportunity. And so I only have myself to blame for that. There are several places I could have seen and done and things like that. And it's funny how we don't realize that until we get a little older, and it's like, whoops, missed that shot. So, but hey, Amanda, how are you? Good to see you. Thanks for joining in. If anybody has any questions, fire them off at me. One thing I wish that we could do here. I wish I could hear y'all's voice. I really enjoy talking. I don't mind reading the comments, certainly not. But I hope that one day there's some sort of direct interaction, vocal, where we hear and see each other. I think that'd be a great. Hi, Dad. uh, choose a car for a car edit. Is it Hilbert? Okay. Sorry, I don't have the greatest vision up close without my glasses, so I apologize if I mispronounced your name or whatnot. Well, if you were part of my live stream earlier, I did speak a little bit about my personal car. I do have a Mustang. However, it's not my favorite car actually. A lot of people I've owned several Mustangs in the past, and it's not because it's necessarily my favorite car. I do like the Ford Mustang, but it I've never been able to own my true favorite car, which is a Porsche 911. I've always wanted a 911, and I'll tell you the story behind it. When I worked at a small airport in high school, I pumped fuel and marshaled airplanes, and I had a customer that would come in on Friday nights, and he would go off on weekend trips. He was an architect, and he would come in and he drove a 911, and this was the 996 series 911. So um, 95, 96, 1995, 1996 era. And I got to drive his a lot because he would unload his bags and he would hand me the keys and he would ask me to go park his car. Now, I'm just parking it. It's not like I'm getting it out on the highway and driving it, but I did get to drive it, and that honestly got me to where I truly appreciated the craftsmanship behind a Porsche. And so since then, I've driven several, and I would love to own one. I just don't think it's probably realistic uh, for me to have one, but I do like Porsche 911s. Okay, Duxford. Duxford? I'm sorry, I may not be pronouncing this right. Uh, I'm pretty sure I've seen maybe some videos of that one, Brian. That would be great if you could maybe make some videos of that for your channel. That'd be fantastic. I love museums, I really do. And you know what? I truly enjoy aircraft. I enjoy the fact that there's people out there dedicating their lives to um, um, these aircraft, but the people behind it truly make it. Uh, um, hey, Orion, how are you? Good to see you. Thanks for stopping in. You know what? You're right. I do believe God loves me. Thank you very much for that. Yeah. But I think the people behind I think the people behind the work, behind the restoration and the preservance of these aircraft are just truly amazing. That video of Mike that Mike posted of the KC-10 with the pilot telling the stories, that just makes it so much worthwhile. And I actually went to a museum, a World War II museum. It's down in Savannah, Georgia. It's the Mighty Eighth Air Force Museum. They have uh, a beautiful B-17 down there that they've restored. But the first time I went to that museum, I want to say I was 15 or 16 years old. So it's been a number of years ago. But one thing I really appreciate is the fact that one of the guides who were showing people these aircraft was a former World War II vet who flew these aircraft. So to me, that was just amazing. Rolls Royce, yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, the Phantom, absolutely. Um, I used to really dream about, and I'm not saying don't dream about having something amazing. Certainly you got to have dreams to be productive in life. You really do. When I was younger, I used to think of having Ferraris and Lamborghinis, and the typical teenage boy thing. And when I got into aviation, I worked for a small, well, not really a small, but a medium-sized charter operation out of Atlanta that had had several pilots that were um, I guess, blessed in a way to have an abundance of money that they drove Ferraris. And a particular guy, his name was Frank, he drove a Ferrari 360 Modena. And so I got to ride with him occasionally. Um, but I've gotten lately where I honestly just I don't necessarily dream too much about things that I know are kind of outside my possibility, I guess you could say. And I've also gotten to where I try not to be so self-indulgent. What other people needs. I'd rather see somebody else be more successful. So I think at my point in my life now is I'm looking at more of what can I leave behind when I'm gone, not what can I have now. So, but that's just my the way I'm thinking these days. VW camper, yeah, I love VWs. When I was a cadet in the Civil Air Patrol, I got to ride to our squadron meetings with a guy named Mike, and Mike drove a an early Volkswagen Beetle, and I loved that car. I absolutely loved it. And then later, I got to when I was in high school, I had a friend that had a VW bus, and I always thought, his VW bus was really, really in bad shape. But I always imagined, wow, how this thing would be if it was in restored condition. And I really, really liked the bus. So every time I see one today, it takes me back to that time, and I really think of all those moments of riding in the Beetle and whatnot. But Volkswagens are cool. I just really like them. Always have. They're simplistic, super reliable. Um, they're just good vehicles, and that's why you still see them on the road today. Not as much as I'd like, but I do occasionally see them. Well, it's just down to you and I, Brian. I think I had five there at one time. I started getting excited, but maybe I'm not as interesting. Uh, I've got to work on my approach, I guess. But this this whole experience has been certainly new to me. Uh, Sitting in front of a camera and talking to a camera is difficult for me sometimes. But I have to remember that I got great people on the other side. That I'm not really talking to a camera. I'm speaking through a camera to you. So I it's just something to get used to. I hope that soon I'll be. I got to take some lessons from Mike. I think because Mike is very one. He's energetic and he just has that great speaking voice. I really every time I hear Mike's voice, I think of a like a radio announcer or something, radio DJ. Because he has a great voice for talking, but I think he has a talent of really reaching out to people um, and connecting with people. And maybe that's something I'm not the greatest communicator. I've been working on that my entire life. Um, when I was a kid, I was very shy. I didn't want to express any type of. I didn't want to share nothing with anyone. I'd sit in a room full of people and I'd be the quietest ones. But uh, I really I really do like talking now, especially about things that I know there's a common interest. I could talk airplanes all day and never get tired. Um, but thank you, Brian. I appreciate that. I try to be honest and truthful. This is just who I am. I don't want to try to convince people to follow me, and they're not following who I really am. So I want to certainly be true to myself. I don't want to look back at these videos 10 years from now and shake my head and be embarrassed. I just want to be who I am. So hopefully people are accepting of that. And if not, that's okay too. I'm not I'm not trying to do anything more than just connect with people and share some knowledge. So looks like we're up to three now, so that's kind of nice. I'm only seeing comments from you, Brian. Hello, the other well, they just dropped off, so back down to you, Brian. But yeah, being behind the camera is kind of scary. Confidence behind the screen, absolutely. It's different. It's a different world to sit here and talk essentially to yourself. And in some ways, it feels like you're talking to yourself. But I would love to collaborate. You know what? We should do something, all three of us, somehow. I don't know. I'm not that skilled at the um, working out the um, technology, how that works. But I'm actually more comfortable without these glasses. If somehow we could figure out how to do something together, I think that'd be a lot of fun. Absolutely. I uh, I think collaboration is a great thing these days, especially something when you're scattered out. It's easy to sit here and talk about aviation, but everyone's got a different viewpoint, different perspective. Just because I like a certain airplane, it's neat to hear that someone else likes something different and why they like it, and it really opens up your eyes because I may not like an airplane because of a particular reason, but I don't know of any other reason to like it. I may have had um, I don't know. Most airplanes that I choose to like are planes that I've actually either flown or flown in, at least, to have a true experience with them. I don't like too many airplanes that I haven't ever been around. But I do I do like to hear other people's opinion of why they like a particular airplane. Uh, I really like asking questions. Why do you prefer the 172 over the 182 Cessna? There's some people that will flat tell you they have specific reasons why they like the 172 and whatnot. And so, and it's even more interesting when their reason they like the plane is completely different than the reason I like it. And it really opens up your eyes. Well, Brian, it's just me and you again. This might be the way things are for a while, but that's okay. Hey, one is better than none. So I am glad to be able to share some time. I'm sorry, my eyes are here here where I live, Brian, and it may be similar to where you are in the United Kingdom, but um, pollen is really bad right now. So um, my eyes are itching. Think you said about the Sky Baby. Yeah, the Sky Baby is an interesting. I'll tell you the first time I became aware of that aircraft because the company, the person who built that plane, Stitz, I believe is his name, last name. They also developed a process of applying fabric coating to an airplane. So like the fabric wings and whatnot. And when I was at Sun and Fun, which is a EAA air show that occurs in Lakeland, Florida each summer, I was down there as part of a class in my high school years, and so we learned to stitch and apply this fabric coating to a wing structure. It was actually a very fascinating class. It's something that I wish now that I'd paid even more attention to now that I'm older. But so I got to take that class, which was based upon that method of that person who also designed and flew the Sky Baby. So kind of neat. I still got that book somewhere. I'll have to find it. I don't see it on my bookshelf, but I've got it somewhere. And on the cover of that book is Sky Baby. So as soon as Mike showed that on his channel, I was like, that plane is familiar. I remember seeing that before. But That's just a neat, really neat airplane. I would imagine that the roll control would be very finicky with that plane because it's such a short wingspan. I think the wingspan is like less than 8 feet, so it probably doesn't have a very quick roll rate. But I can only imagine. I that's one airplane that if I try to imagine its flying characteristics, I I really find a loss of ways to describe it because I really think it has its probably something I've never experienced before. It's not very long, so it probably doesn't have a very effective rudder control. Or I don't know, maybe because it's so short and it does have a fairly good sized vertical stabilizer and rudder, it may be very touchy to the rudder. So I don't know. It could be so many different things. It does strike me as an airplane you can fly with your body, and what I mean by that, Brian, is I have flown airplanes before that you could lean forward and it would go down. You lean back and it would go up. You lean left, it would tilt to the left and roll up. You could fly it by moving your body weight around. And so I always thought that was kind of interesting. Yeah, the SR-71 is really cool. There's there's a SR-71 that's also at the museum I was speaking about earlier in Warner Robins, Georgia. And there's also an A12. Are you familiar with the A12? The A12 was the single seat hot rod version of the SR-71. So it was the one that did most of the reconnaissance work. A lot of people don't know that that aircraft exists. It is slightly smaller, I believe, than the SR-71, but it still has the same look to it. And there's one of those on display at the U.S. Space and Rocket Center in Huntsville. And I've shared a picture on Mike's page once before of it. I took a picture as I was driving past the Space Center, and I didn't get a very good picture of it. But yeah, the A12 is called the Ox Cart, A12 Ox Cart. It's a miraculous airplane, but it's supposedly faster, and it was the workhorse behind those aircraft. The SR-71s were more into um, stuff like testing and whatnot. But from what I understand, the A12 was the aircraft that really was the one doing most of the work. And apparently, it was a handful to fly because it was quite a bit faster. Oh, great! I'm glad that you knew that. That's great. Yeah, there's a lot of people out there that don't realize that the A12 exists. They think all of them are SR-71s. So I try to spread that little bit of knowledge as well, especially since there's an A12 an hour from my house, and a lot of people think they're SRs, but they're not. Good stuff though. Yeah, I'm going to more than likely go in the springtime. I go at least once a year. Um, it's kind of a family tradition of mine. Uh, I'll definitely be going, and I will. This year, I'll have a purpose to make some videos, and I'll probably do a live stream straight from there as we walk through the museum portion. They got a beautiful rocket park. I call it the rocket park. You go outside, and it's a nice, beautiful courtyard, and there's rockets just standing everywhere. So you get to walk right up to them. You literally can put your hands on them. There's a lot of leftover hardware from the late 50s, early 60s. Corporal missiles. There's a Redstone missile there. There's a Mercury Redstone rocket. There's an Atlas, Mercury Atlas rocket. I'm sorry, it's actually an Atlas missile. And some of those, but the Saturn V's there inside. You can see a lot of space hardware that's there. Lunar landers, all kinds of cool stuff. So it'd be a good time to uh, take the camera with me and get y'all live and as we walk through. I think it'd be a lot of fun. Well, Ryan, are you joining us because of affiliation with DC Mike Aviation Fund, or have you just stumbled across me? Or tell me a little bit about yourself. I know Brian a little bit closer because he and I kind of met through another channel, but I'm always interested in hearing where people came from and or where they are from and how they stumbled across this channel because obviously I'm still new and getting started, but always interested in people who are tagging along and whatnot. So tell me a little bit about your fascination with aerospace or aviation. Are you a pilot? Are you a mechanic? Are you an enthusiast? All those are equally important to me. So this channel, if you're just happen to stumbling across me, first of all, thank you for hanging out with me. Um, um, my goal here is to teach about flying. Basically, I've been a pilot for most of my life, and I've worked for the airlines and done a lot of stuff with Civil Air Patrol. So you're 11. Oh, that's great. Well, welcome, Ryan. That's great. 11 years old. I was 11 years old when I started flying. My first lesson flying airplanes, I was 11 years old. So that's a great age. It's a great age. So, oh, great. Yeah. DC Mike. Yeah, definitely. Definitely with you, Brian. I remember that. In fact, one of the first names I ever remember popping up when I was tuning into DC Mike's was yours. I always saw how involved you were, and I always appreciated that. You truly helped him as you're helping me, and I think we both appreciate that greatly. I know I certainly do, and I'm sure Mike does as well. So, so Ryan, what's your plans for the future? Do you want to be a pilot, or are you just an enthusiast? You like aircraft, you like airplanes and helicopters and stuff like that. Uh, what what's your focus in life? I guess. Thank you, Brian. I'm glad you find. I'm glad that you find what I'm bringing interesting. I know it can be boring to some people. Sometimes I think I can bore myself. Um, I'm very fortunate. I'll say that. I had a father that right there. I had a father that truly uh, he lived to allow opportunities for me. He really did. And that airplane that you see above me here, that plane was purchased so I could enjoy it. Really, it really cut down on the cost of me flying because my dad owned the airplane. I didn't have to rent an airplane, and in most cases, especially when I was young, he put all the gas in it, so I didn't really have to pay for nothing. But I will say this: flight instruction was different because my dad was not a flight instructor, so he couldn't provide that for me. So let me tell you a really interesting story, and I've probably will share this again in the future when there's more people. I think I've done lost everybody again here, but when I was when I was about I guess about 10, I hadn't quite turned 11 yet. Uh, so Dad had the airplane, and I was trying to work out a way how I could afford to fly. How can I pay a flight instructor? And back then, I think flight instructors were getting paid about $65 to $70 an hour here in this area, and it varies depending on where you live. But much more expensive now. But I remember my dad said, "Okay, well, I got the airplane. You're gonna have to figure out the rest." And so I went with my buddy Mike in the Volkswagen Beetle because he was learning to fly, and I went with him to a small airport just outside of our town and watched him fly. He was a few years older than me. So I'm watching him fly while I'm sitting at this picnic table. Beautiful day, sitting there in the sun and just having a great time watching the airplanes. And this older gentleman comes outside and he's talking to me. He's like, "So you want to be a pilot one day?" And I was like, "Yes, sir, I do." And I said, "In fact, my dad's a pilot, and he's bought an airplane, and I'm just trying to figure out how to pay to learn to fly." And he tells me, he said, "Well, you have to you have to just wait. You'll get a job one day when you get older, and you can afford to pay a flight instructor." And I told him, I said, "Well, that's the problem is I my light just turned off." I said, "That's the problem is I don't have that kind of patience. I really want to get started right now. And so we talked some more, and I finally just got like 3 minutes of courage. And I asked him, I said, "Who cuts your grass?" And he said, "Well, I do." And I said, "Well, I'll tell you what, I want to cut your grass." And he's like, "Okay, well, that'll free me up a lot of time." And he goes, "How much would you charge me?" And I didn't just come straight out and say it. I think I mumbled around a little bit trying to come up with the right words. But I said, "I tell you what, I will cut your grass, every bit of the grass at this airport, in exchange for flying lessons." And that's how I got started. I cut grass every single day. It was so much grass to cut. I cut all of his grass, and then every Saturday I would go down there and get a flying lesson. And that's how I got started. And I did that all the way up until I was at least 16. So there's 5 years of cutting grass right there. So it was interesting. It was interesting. Oh, cool. So you live right there near the base. I can relate to that too a little bit, Brian. I lived as a kid. I lived near Dobbins Air Force Base. It's an Air Reserve base now, but back in those days, it was an active Air Force base, and it also had a an area that was part of Naval Air Station Atlanta. So a little bit of naval aviation going on there too. And I remember seeing the jets fly over the house, and I was always just really, really. I'd lay on my back in the grass, staring straight up, just waiting for A7s used to fly over, and occasionally you'd see something else, but typically A7s and larger Navy airplanes, P3 Orion, stuff like that. So always enjoyed that. Oh yeah, cool. Very neat, Brian. What kind of aircraft? What kind of stuff were you seeing during that time? It's always interesting to me to see what other aircraft people see too, especially in your case where you're not in the United States, you're in Europe. So it's really interesting to me to hear what other people have seen with aircraft and stuff. All active bases. Hmm, really cool. What time is it getting here? I'm gonna have to go here in just a minute, Brian. I'm sorry. It's getting time for dinner, shower, and bed. C5s? Oh, wow. C-130s, great. C-17s? Oh, the great ones. Yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely a Hercules lover. I got to fly on the C-130 a couple times. Tremendous airplane. I absolutely love it. And my second flight instructor actually was involved in the C-130. So I got to hear a lot of stories about the C-130. So always loved the Herc. It's such a versatile aircraft. I think it's the has the record for the airplane being the longest uh, production, constant production, and it's so versatile. It's been used for everything. Yeah, it was built for cargo. Now I know it's turned into so many different variants, all the way up to being a gunship, and it's just a great aircraft. Has definitely got a close place to my heart. I got a couple more people just join in. Welcome. Good to see y'all today. Have any questions or anything? Let me know. We're just talking about right now. We're talking about C-130s. Oh, that's great. So you get a constant view of these aircraft flying around your house, Brian. That's awesome. Occasionally, we have one that flies over the mountain here, treetop level. No one likes it but me. Everyone starts talking. Oh, the airplanes are buzzing the mountain again. Me, I'm all for it. When I hear sometimes when they do it in the middle of the day on like a Saturday, I can hear them coming, and so I'll run outside and wait for them. And sometimes I hope they continue waving at them, but sometimes I don't know. Okay, so you get to see some aerial refueling. Well, that's really cool. Um, I got to take part in the KC-135 flight one time back in my cadet days of CAP, seeing some F-16s and F-15s refuel. That was an amazing experience. Such coordination involved with that operation, getting two aircraft in complete synchronization and flying that close together. Um, and I think with the Air Force version of the refueling, Air Force uses the flying boom, where the Navy uses more of a drogued hose that they drag behind the aircraft. I, I'm not. I don't want to assume one's more difficult than the other, but it sometimes I feel like the Air Force version with the flying boom is maybe more difficult. But am I busy tomorrow? Working tomorrow. First part of the day. After work, don't think I'm going to be doing a whole lot tomorrow. Probably be working on my six pack aircraft instrument video. I got a lot of work to do with that. A lot more graphics to create. So I'm tempted just to see if I can go to an airport and let talk some talk to some guy at his Cessna and ask him if I can take some pictures of his instruments. I need to. Most of my friends that I flew with in the past have either moved on, have passed away, or I have moved away from them, and so I'm kind of a loner up here now with regard to aviation. So I need to make some aviation friends in the local airports, and there's not too many of those. There's I kind of live between three airports in a way. Uh, Airport in Chattanooga, Tennessee, which is a larger commercial airport, and then there's Rome, Georgia, which is a regional airport, and then there's also an airport in Fort Payne, Alabama, and that is a even smaller airport. So maybe I can make some new friends out there. I'd love to shoot some video out there. Maybe talk to some other people besides me. Maybe they can bring some new light to the channel or something. Well, Brian, I certainly appreciate you sticking out here with me. Seen the numbers go up to five. They're kind of all over the place, but for the most part, it's just been you and I, and I appreciate that. I really hope that this. I'm not looking to uh, make money from YouTube. That's not a concern of mine. I'm uh, that's not the purpose. Purpose is to share knowledge and teach and gain some knowledge too, because I certainly look forward to learning some things from some of you, because there are people out there that know more than I do. I know without a shadow of a doubt. Um, and I hope to get that opportunity to learn. That to me. That's this and developing a good, positive community is what I'm looking for. That's it, and I think that will come over time. I've been meaning to ask Mike how long he's been doing what he's doing, and how long it's taking him, because there's days where I get frustrated, and I try not to pay attention to numbers. I really don't, because I don't think that's really important. If I teach one person one thing, that's just as good to me as if I teach 500 people something. You know, knowledge is I don't think there's really I don't know. I'm running out of words how to describe what I'm trying to say, but it's not that important to me, really. The numbers are not that important. If I can get through to inspire one person, that's great enough. It's certainly enough. And I certainly want to support Civil Air Patrol, and I hope if there's any young people that tune in, and they have that drive, that discipline, that they want to do more than things for themselves. They want to serve others. And I certainly hope I can maybe get them in touch with Civil Air Patrol because it's a great organization. Yeah, I'd like to try that. Yeah, um, we may have to toy with the idea, see if we can make it work or whatever. But yeah, I'd certainly like to be a part of any collaboration with you, Brian. I think that'd be a lot of fun, and I'd learn something because you strike me as a person I can learn a lot from. Uh, I'm going to say this: you've got to be one of the most creative people I've ever come across, and that's fascinating. I love your work. I think the first thing I ever asked you was if you were a graphic artist because some of your some of your pictures. I think this was before you started doing the videos, uh, but just the pictures alone were just amazing. And I consider myself kind of a spiritual person, and some of your photographs, some of your photos and your videos were truly heartwarming, touching, and I think we both have the love of wildlife, the appreciation of wildlife, and I always thought that was great too because here where I live, seeing bald eagles is pretty common. You can actually just walk out into my driveway and be there at the right time, and you'll see them, and then bears come around and stuff like that. So I thought that was fascinating. Absolutely love your work. I'm just looking at this timer here. We've been live for 43 minutes, and it feels like it's been 4 minutes. Time really flies when you're doing this. It's incredible. Well, Brian, education is. I think it really depends on how you look at it. Um, um, I'm I'm not a college graduate myself. A lot of I've had some comments from people that they think I did go to college, and I wanted to go to college, and I had plans on becoming an aerospace engineer, but I really didn't want to put my family through that debt, so I chose to wait, and I had plans. I can do it later on my own, and I got busy with Delta and got busy with life, and I got married and had kids, and honestly, I just got so busy. But education to me is you have to look at it in a different sense. Now, I don't tell anyone to not go to college. I think if you can afford to go and take make that an opportunity, I think that's certainly great. Um, I think I think your education should be what you need in order to support the life that you love. Now, I work with people that are much smarter than me. I manage people that are much smarter than me. In fact, uh, I lead a team at work where I have some chemists involved. We're talking about people that have just incredible talent. Uh, that what but I know a little bit of what they do and how they do it, and they explain a lot of things to me. Every day is a learning experience for me because I get to work with these great people. But do I need a chemistry degree to do what I do? No, not really. I don't. I just need a general fundamental understanding of their job and how to do it and how to support them as a manager. So I think there is no bar that says everyone should you have this much education, and if you're below this, then it's not acceptable, and if you're above it, you're okay. I think it depends on the individual because not everyone's the same. Um, I think it's important that people just be happy. If you're happy in your career and you're happy with your education, I couldn't afford to go to college, but one thing I can do is I can pick up a book and read, and that's where most of my knowledge came from was just getting focused and reading books And I used to, when I was in my 20s, I used to love to go find discarded college textbooks about science and chemistry and stuff like that, and I would read them and I would learn. And so it's helped me. You have to be happy with yourself, though. You have to be you have to be willing to attain what you're looking for. But I don't necessarily think that uh, you should feel bad if you're not as educated as someone else. No. Are you happy and are you able to do what you always wanted to do? If you reach your goals, then hey, you've succeeded. You have succeeded. Grew up with a okay home life. Yeah, me too. I'm sorry, this light's on an automatic timer. Uh, I had a great childhood. I really did. I was lucky. My parents were together all the way up until my dad passed away, and I had friends that most of my friends' parents were divorced, and I saw that pain through them. It wasn't easy for them, I'm sure. I did grow up not so wealthy. I a lot of people thought, well, especially when I was in junior high and I started learning to fly, and dad's got an airplane. Immediately, I was rich. It's not really the case. Um, the airplane was not new; it was very old. It's just fortunate that it was in good shape. My dad also got a really good deal on it because he bought it through a friend. So owning an airplane is not necessarily expensive. You don't necessarily have to be rich. You just have to have the right opportunity. Dad's airplane also was modified to burn automotive gasoline, which was much cheaper. So it was just a perfect scenario. I don't think I could get that to work ever again. But we didn't have a lot of money. Life was good, but we didn't have a whole lot of money. Um, but but I was fortunate. My dad, he was not going to sit down and not help me, and so he helped me a lot. Mom helped me a lot because she tolerated my obsession of flying, and she also, I'm sure, she worried about Dad and I when we were flying, but because my mom does not like to fly, but yeah, a lot of people involved. I'm certainly not where I'm at today because of myself. Uh, I had nothing to do with it. I had some great people around me. Everything I've ever done has been because of the greatness of others. Has nothing to do with Tony, and that even goes on today. Some people will make a comment, compliment me on something, and I'll think about it for a minute. I'm like, 20 years ago, I wouldn't have done that. I wasn't that kind of person. I wasn't that kind. And honestly, my wife has changed me for the goodness of that. My wife has created a person in me that I truly like. I've got a long ways to go. I don't think you're ever there. You always got to do better, and strive to be better. But my wife changed me for the better. When I was in my younger years, I was not the nicest person. Um, that's right. We don't ever stop learning. Well, some people choose to, but if you do, wow, you're limiting yourself so much because the world changes so quick. Technology changes, people change. It's really invaluable for us to continue to learn and find new ways to learn. And as we get older, Brian, it's not so easy to learn. So sometimes we have to embrace change and embrace technology to learn these new things. Grew up with grandfather. Okay, our grandparents. Oh yeah, I can, that had to be really great. I lost all my grandparents before I started flying, so I was 8, 9, 10 when my grandparents passed away. Um, so I never really got that opportunity to have a really good relationship. They also lived far away, so I didn't get to see them very often. But I often wondered, like, how would I be today if my grandfather or my grandmother uh, were still alive? I don't really know. I don't know, honestly, don't know a whole lot about them, which is kind of unfortunate. But I wonder that a lot. I really do. That's right. You have to, no matter what the obstacles are in life, you have to wake up each day with your head held high. Nobody's perfect. Uh, we can only do our best every day. And I tell that to my team at work as well. And I've told that to cadets in Solo Air Patrol is just give me 100%. That's all I care. It doesn't mean you're going to be successful. It doesn't mean you're not going to make errors. It's not guaranteed that you're going to not have problems. But if you try your best every single day, then no matter what the outcome, you are successful. Uh, and there's days where I come home from work and I'm like, it did not go the way I wanted it to. Um, there's days where I've come home and go to bed thinking beaten and disappointed, but you just have to do your best. Even if there's no one that's got your back, even if there's no one standing behind you, rooting for you, cheering for you, or even someone who understands that you've crossed a bad day and or had a bad day, and they understand. Sometimes people just don't understand what you deal with. I think sometimes I have days that no one understands but me, because I try to discuss those days and I'm getting looks like, you know, we don't understand. So you have to be positive. You know, there's been a lot of things I have not accomplished in my life. I never wanted to be a commercial pilot, but I always wanted to be a pilot, and I always wanted to get to where I could fly all the time, and I could own an airplane like my dad did, and I could take my family on trips. And did that happen? No, nowhere close. You know, my 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 ride kind of went away when I lost my dad, and I realized how much he helped me through the whole flying thing. And there's no CAP squadrons near me, so I kind of do Civil Air Patrol, kind of like from a remote status, uh, just trying to educate cadets on aerospace, and not just cadets, but also the general public. I want the general public to understand the importance of aerospace. And but yeah, I'm not the pilot that I wished I was. Um, there's a lot of things I'm not thrilled about, but I can say I've given it everything I can. My life changed really drastically after 9/11. My day at 9/11, and my day at Delta on 9/11 was quite a day, and I certainly don't think I had it bad by other people's perspective. There were many, many, many people that suffered really horrible times during that day, and people who lost loved ones, people who saw their dad and their husband, their mom, their children go to work that day and never return home. And to me, that's always been very 9/11, even to this day, is a very quiet day for me, and it's a day that even people I work with understand. They know that on that day it's best just to leave me alone, and I'll be in my office with the door closed, and I listen to every name being called out, each memorial, uh, because I want to always remember those people. But it's certainly a day I want to forget, not just because of the tragic events of that day, but what it did to me personally. Because after 9/11, I lost everything, my job, my house, my cars. I literally, I drug my family through hell, because the life that I provided them went away. And we ended up living apart for a while and renting houses and stuff. And eventually we were able to get back on our feet. It took about 12 years. Um, Do I want to ever go through that again? Absolutely not. But I tell you what, I learned more during that 12 years than I think I ever have about resilience and just staying focused and achieving your goal. And the goal was simply to survive. I wanted to be able to say one day that my family and I would live together in a home and it would be home again. So I worked a lot of different jobs that I didn't enjoy. And then to this day, I've still not worked in aviation, and I truly miss that. I really miss that. But again, it's another one of those sacrifices for life. You know, I could live in the city still and still work. I probably could go back to work for Delta, but I'd much rather live here on this mountain where it's quiet and peaceful. And that's another reason this channel kind of came to be is because it gives me a platform. If I can't work in aviation, um, then what else can I do in it? So I decided that this would be the perfect opportunity for that. Um, aviation has been huge to me. Everything aerospace has been truly huge, and I think it's important to me now to just share that, and hopefully it will inspire someone else to do something great with their life, even if you're not young. Because I think people sometimes we get kind of in our slumps and we think that, well, I'm 40 years old. I'm too old to go to college. I'm too old to become a pilot. I'm too old to become an aviation mechanic. You're never too old. You're never too old. I still have plans to become an aerospace engineer. I'm not there yet. And I may never use that. I may never ever use that degree, but it's a personal goal of mine to, at some point, get that qualification. So, hey, Mark. No, I'm glad you're here, man. No problem. It's hard to be. It's hard to predict me today. This is my fault, not yours. I'm all over the place today. I'm just honestly, this is just I just wanted to get my feet wet with this whole live stream platform and just kind of reach out and talk to y'all a little bit. But I'm glad you're back. I'm glad you're back. I don't know how much longer I'll be here, but I'll try to not let my phone die and actually say goodbye appropriately. I'm sorry for that. I, that's not how I like to do things. But glad you're here. We were just talking about a little bit of everything, but mainly talking about goals, life goals, career goals. And I was sharing a little bit of my story about 9/11, about how literally, when 9/11 hit, I was 23 years old. I was working for Delta Airlines, one of the largest. It wasn't the largest at the time, not the largest airline, but I think it was number two. So one of the largest airlines in the world. Very profitable. Had every opportunity at my disposal. I was already in A&P school to become an airline mechanic, and in the department I was currently working in, I was already a lead, which is like the first level supervisor. Nothing extraordinary, um, but I felt very blessed. And then 9/11 hit, and I came into work. I arrived at work just after it happened, and I did not know what had happened because I didn't watch the news or listen to the radio on the way to work that day. So I knew something was different when I got there because I was being, uh, inspected. My car was being looked at by the security, and I was told to get in and call all my team and tell them not to come to work. And I was like, wow, what is happening here? But 9/11 was tough. It was certainly tougher on other people. I was not directly related to 9/11, but more indirectly. And in some ways, I think I was relieved when I heard that it was not a Delta aircraft that went down. And I really feel sad about that thought today because it sounds very selfish and horrible. I can't believe I even thought that back in those days. But um, so many people lost so much that day. And I didn't lose a life. I didn't lose a father, a mother, a son, a daughter. I didn't lose anybody that I knew, but many people did. And for that, wow, you know, I really don't know what to say. I get very emotional when I talk about 9/11. It's a day that still haunts me even today. But it's one of those things that it's hard for me to think about sometimes. But it did change my life, and like I was telling Brian earlier, but I did lose everything I had. Um, my wife and I hadn't been married very long, but we lost our house and everything. A little bit, not the very next day, of course, but over the course of a year or two. You just couldn't find work, um, aviation work. Everything got just so slow, and so I took jobs. I worked for Firestone Tire for a little while, and didn't mind that so much because I've always been kind of a car guy, but it certainly wasn't where I needed to be. And then I did work for another smaller aviation firm for a very short time, and they were having problems too staying afloat, so I ended up getting laid off again from them. And then I got involved in construction and became an electrician and worked my way up the ladder uh, doing that for 15 years, over a 15-year period. And I enjoyed that. I did. Met some fantastic people, but it just never felt like it was where I needed to be. And so I finally made the move to where I'm at now, which is still not in aviation, but I work for a PPE company that makes personal protection equipment, and I work in quality. And it's something I enjoy because I enjoy the people I work with. Not so much the job, but I enjoy the people I work with. And so I I do enjoy them. It's okay. It's fine. But I certainly miss aviation, and that's what makes this channel even more special to me. This is kind of my outreach to the world of aviation, so to speak. But yeah, I enjoy this. I enjoy communicating about aerospace and from an educational standpoint. I've been an educator, an aerospace educator since 2010 when I first started AE education for the Civil Air Patrol, and I've enjoyed every moment of it. I enjoy the opportunity to teach other people. Yeah, thank you, Brian. I'm glad you're enjoying this. I really am. And this is kind of like therapy for me. It's not often I find people with the same interests as I do around where I live. I'm kind of the outsider, kind of the oddball. So I certainly appreciate the opportunity to share aviation with y'all, and I appreciate y'all taking a chance on me and joining in. It's always just super great. Yeah, Mark, rest in peace. Wow, so many people affected by that day. Um, it's a day that still bothers me. It really bothers me. Um, I won't sit here and say that I suffer like others do, but it's definitely a quiet day for me. 5 people, yeah. Well, welcome. If I have not had the opportunity to speak to the other three, welcome. I'm glad y'all tuned in. Um, if you just have joined us, we're just talking about life goals and um, motivating each other to do what we dream to do and not wait around because we're restricted by finances or uh, our own mind. Sometimes our own minds get in our way. We think we're too old to do something or we're not old enough. I absolutely love it when I hear kids, they're like 8, 9 years old. They're like, yeah, I want to be a pilot, but I have to get older. And I'm like, No, you don't. You don't have to be older. I started when I was 11, actually flying an airplane when I was 11 years old. You do not have to be 25, 30, 50, 50 years old. You can start flying. There is no law in the United States, at least. There is no law in the federal aviation regulations that says you have to be a certain age to begin flying lessons. Now, you have to be 16 to solo and proceed to get your license. But you can start learning to fly at any time. And there are people on YouTube. There's this one guy who flies with his little girl in a J3 Cub. I love these videos because she can't be more than 5 years old and she's just flying the wings off this J3. And I think that's fabulous. I think people that are, uh, especially these dads, spending this time with their kids, that's just really cool. Flying an airplane and stuff. So don't let nothing bother you. Don't let nothing stop you. Find a way. Even if you don't have people supporting you, do what you love. Do what you are passionate about because that's what living is. If you're doing something that you're not passionate about, you're wasting your life. You're wasting your time. Do something that you truly believe in, truly you love. I think that's what is really important here. Oh, thank you, Brian. I appreciate that. Mike, are you with us? DC Mike, are you in the house? Did I miss your comment? I'm scrolling back. Brian, I don't see, but it's possible that I may have messed up and skipped over it. DC Mike, if you're here, chime back in. I certainly hope you are. I could talk about 3 hours just for you. So, Mark, if I remember correctly, I'm going back to the post that I had of the Beechcraft Starship, and I remember I think it was you said that you used to work in that facility. Is that correct? Am I thinking correctly? Um, the Starship is an amazing machine, and I've had the opportunity to get to see it fly. I know there's only like I think if you look them up on the internet, I think it's not exact, but I think there's 3 to 5 still flying. But absolutely amazing. Oh, it was not you. Oh, interesting. I'm not sure who it was. And I really thought it was you. Okay, I'm trying to see what we're talking about with the crown. Oh, who? Now I got you. Oh yes, I do see DC Mike on there. Thank you, Brian. You just taught me something. I love it. I did not know that you could actually see that. That's fantastic. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, Mock. Yeah, I'd wish to. I'd wish for you. Whoever it was, they told me that they did not work on the starship, but they worked in the same building. I think during the same time, so they were working on a different project. But can you imagine that you go to work and they're building a starship beside you? That would be really cool. Yeah, the starship I saw fly was probably in 1999, 1998, somewhere around in that location time. And it was taking, I had just landing at an airport just northeast of Atlanta called Peachtree DeKalb, uh, Papa Delta Kilo. is the identifier. I had just landed there. I'm not sure why I was there, but I remember hearing a starship calling final, and so I saw it land in front of us, and that was pretty cool. Yeah, awesome airplane. I'm also a big fan of the Pratt PT6 engines, which is powers the starship. It also powers the King Air and the Cessna Caravan. So it's one of my favorite turboprop engines. So just the sound alone of the Starship to me is like it's magical. Twin Pratt PT6s with I think a five-bladed prop. So you got 10 blades whirling, and it sounds like a mad fan. And I absolutely love it. So, what's your favorite airplane, Mock? What do you like? Are you into military aviation, civil aviation, um, commercial aviation? So, it's always interesting to uh, hear what people's interests are. Yeah, Mike is awesome. I continue to learn things by watching Mike. I've always been just truly impressed with everything about him. His way of presenting, his way of caring for people, keeping an even keel regarding um, just being true ethic. Caring about everybody, understanding that everyone has a purpose and a place, and I truly appreciate that. We have to be we have to come together as a community. If I'm on here disrespecting someone, that's not right. There's no need in that, and I won't tolerate someone disrespecting any of you. Uh, for those that like to get on people's live streams and cause chaos, is not that's not I just won't I can't permit that. That's just not good. So hey, I see my son on here. So hey, Christian. So James is my son. So hello, son. Glad you could join your dad. That's very cool. What are you up to? You're probably 50 feet from me in the house. But anyway, son, I'm glad you joined in to check out your old man's live stream. Tell mom I'm not going to be much longer. Yes, definitely Missouri with the B2s. Absolutely. It's amazing that the B2s launched out of Missouri and flies nonstop. Will fly overseas to fly a sortie, uh, execute that mission, and then fly back. And several refuelings, aerial refuelings. You think about the machine, it's like, wow, that's incredible. Think about the people too. I just can you imagine sitting in the I think most of their missions are 18, 20 hours. That's incredible. Can you imagine sitting in the cockpit of an airplane for 20 hours, and in the process you're attaching to a boom every 3, 4 hours to refuel? That's incredible. Absolutely incredible. So F-22 and F-15. Okay, well the F-22, I got to see the last one of those being built um, as it finished. I was actually doing work at the Dobbins Air Force Base in Marietta, Georgia, which is where Lockheed Martin is. And I was not doing any. I was. This is back in my construction days. We were building three brand new hangars for the C-130s. And I remember a guy coming by me, and he goes, "Hey, you're gonna watch this when it comes by." And he was an Air Force guy that I'd got to know just over the days, talking to him and everything. He was always walking around in a flight suit because you know me, I'm going to ask, "Hey, what do you do here?" So he was actually one of the F-16 pilots that flew chase for the F-22 during its test flight part. And so he went on to tell me that the he's like, the next plane that comes by here is going to be the very last F-22 built. It's on its way to the paint hangar. And so I got to see that roll by, which was pretty cool. So imagine an F-22 that did not have the radar absorbing material on it yet. It was just green primer, just all bare metal essentially. So pretty cool. Yeah, Whiteman. Yeah, that's cool. That would be an interesting base to live next to. I think that would be really cool. I do I do have a lot of connections. I'm telling you, my whole life is about opportunities, about people that it just happen to be there. Some people say, "Wow, I can't believe you accomplished this." I've not accomplished nothing. Uh, I just been at the right place at the right time, and have known the right people. And so, anyone could have got to see that F-22 if they would have just taken the time to approach that captain, Air Force captain, in that flight suit and just got to know him a little bit. And so, uh, stuff like that. Sometimes you have to just find the way to that opportunity. Don't be shy to younger guys out there. Don't be shy. Get out there. Develop your network of people because it'll help you. It'll help you through life. I've been very blessed to get to know some people that are in some really interesting areas, not just personally, but have interesting careers, work careers. They work at Lockheed or Boeing or places like that. I still have my very best friend in the whole wide world. Uh, I met at Delta Airlines. He and I are still friends today, and we're like brothers. So, yeah, it's probably the same with a lot of you out there. Is you develop these bonds with people that are unbreakable, and in some cases, you help each other kind of see the world, so to speak, or at least see things that you normally wouldn't get the opportunity to see. Oh, the AWACS, yes. Yeah, the AWACS is early warning. That's a pretty interesting airplane. I've got to see, I want to say it was probably back in 2000, 2001. No, it had to be later than that. Maybe 2003 or something. I remember seeing one of those. It was at the last air show that at Dobbins Air Force Base. They had an AWACS there. Yeah, those are really cool. I think a lot of the AWACSs are based on the KC-135, if I'm not mistaken. Y'all might know that better than I do. Wow, that's really cool, Mark. So you actually got to be in a B2 when you were like six. Dash promotion at one. Oh wow. Toilet and beds, yeah. Spirit of Missouri. I've seen that aircraft. Yes, that's awesome. Now that's something that no one else can say. That's fantastic. You were six. Wow. Most likely the youngest to ever be in one. That's awesome. Too bad you couldn't get a photo op, right? I got to climb when I was a cadet in Civil Air Patrol. I got to climb up the ladder, not into it. I wish, but I got to climb up the ladder of an F-117 Nighthawk, so the stealth fighter. But I couldn't get in it. In fact, I couldn't even take my hands. They didn't want you touching the. It's not paint, of course. It's that radar absorbing material, so they didn't want you touching it. It's very fragile. So I could do nothing but hold on to the ladder, and it was at night, so couldn't see nothing hardly. It was very late, but I have stood very close to an F-117 Nighthawk, and this was right before uh, the use of that aircraft in Desert Storm. So interesting, interesting time frame. That very aircraft probably went to Iraq shortly after, and that might have been why it was at Dobbins Air Force Base in Georgia. So interesting. So Brian, you see a lot of the B twos as well. I know that I know it seems like a lot of the B-2s have been deployed here recently. I think they've left Whiteman, or at least some of them have, and went over to. Oh, okay, F-117. Yeah, started them at Nellis. Oh, wow, that's awesome. Yeah, Nellis is one of those air bases where it's like it's just red flags there. It's like the Air Force version of Top Gun. Uh, Nellis is like one of those. Every time you hear it, you just kind of get oh, Nellis. It's just a cool place. That's really cool. Hats off to your father. It sounds like he had an amazing career. Sat in the cockpit, great. Well, he certainly got better. He got closer than I did. That's awesome. Very cool. Yeah, that was the only time I ever got to see an F-117. I'm not really sure. They kind of just from about the time the Desert Storm hit, they kind of just slowly withered away, whatnot. But cool aircraft. Cool stories, Mark. That's really cool. I'm glad that you got to experience that through your dad. That's that's really awesome. That's really awesome. Yeah, the F-117 is just a truly amazing machine. Well, folks, this has been very enjoyable. I've This is new to me. I probably sound and look like a clown, but I'm really excited about this, and I certainly appreciative of y'all taking part in this. I mean, I know all of you have lives, and you probably have families and interest that are more interesting than sitting here listening to me talk. But I certainly appreciate uh, y'all joining in and making this something uh, other than me just sitting here staring at myself. Oh no! So, Mark, you're talking about your father can't see or hear. Oh no! You know what? I've had some medical stuff in my time. I've had some issues with my eyes. There was a time, very short time, and nothing permanent, but there was some times where I had to go without seeing. Um, and I remember heavily relying on my family to guide me through the house, uh, help me find things. I'll be honest with you, it was scary for me. But one thing I truly appreciated about that experience was understanding that when you do go through something like that, um, you really cherish what you had and you appreciate it. In my case, because I knew my sight would come back at some point, truly appreciate what you're able to do. But one thing I do appreciate about the time that I was not able to see was, man, so many pictures went through my head of things that I had done and seen. It was like I was living my life again through uh, my mind. Sorry, I was trying to come up with a better way of explaining it, but there's a lot of times I would just sit there quietly and I replay things across years in my head, and it was definitely an eye opening experience. But well, that's very kind of you, Mark. I don't think I'm anything special. I'm not trying to be anything special. I'm just trying to do something positive and Wow, your comments like this really they really make me feel good because sometimes in your life you can lack support. You know, not necessarily support, but sometimes you can feel alone and in this world. Even when you have people all around you and they're involved and whatnot, sometimes I think like I'll give you an example. If your mom comes up to you and says, "Hey, great job, son," well, you kind of expect your mom to say, "You're doing a great job." You kind of expect your kids to say, "Great job, dad." You kind of expect your wife or your husband to say, "Great job." Because your family's always going to support you no matter what. But when you hear someone that you never met face to face, such as you, Mark, you, Brian, um, and the others out there, to see a comment like some of y'all's really moves me, and I really appreciate that. I do. I really do. That blows me away sometimes. Well, it blows me away all the time. uh, that's right, Brian. We're all connected in some form of way, even if it's just simply by a passion or an interest. It's I feel really great sitting here before you, simply talking about airplanes, because to other people, I might be very odd and weird and kind of, what's this guy doing? He all he does is sit in front of a fake wall in his garage and he talks to people about airplanes. But um, sometimes people just don't understand other people. Sometimes I feel like people don't understand me, and that's okay. I used to struggle with that, but I've recently come to the conclusion that I don't really care. There are people out there that they'll either understand you or they won't. Don't ponder on the ones that won't. Find the ones who will. And so that's what I really appreciate about doing this, is because we all have a common interest and we can talk each other's ears off about airplanes and you know spacecraft and hot air balloons. If you want to talk about hot air balloons, I've got a little bit of hot air balloon experience to share with you. Not the most exciting thing I've ever done, but certainly interesting. I'd actually like to do it again. But we yeah, you have to make the best out of life, no matter what it gives you. And sometimes, even when it's not exactly what you want, you have to embrace it because it may lead to something better. I truly believe that. Yeah, I don't work in aviation anymore, and that bothers me. It really does. I truly miss that environment. But this might be just a step away from something else. I don't know. And it's not that I'm looking or praying to be able to quit my job and go somewhere else. But if it happens, it happens, and who knows? Sometimes I try not to be so controlling of my own life and just let fate kick in and steer me where I need to go. So very true. It really did. I think the biggest thing, and it's interesting. I say this because today at work, I had to take a class. Being a supervisor, I had to take a class about diversity, and I took a week long training class at Delta about diversity because, as you know, Delta and all airlines are very diverse companies. There's people that work there from all over the globe, different beliefs, backgrounds, religions. It's truly uh, just so broad. And the company I work for is nowhere near as big as Delta Airlines, but it's just as spans the globe as Delta does. We have people based everywhere around the globe, and so we have to have that vision, have that understanding of diversity and why it's important, and what it really means, and respecting those. I'm very fortunate for stuff like that because it really does, as Brian says, it really opens up doors, and I'm very fortunate to have been a part of some of that. And, some of the greatest people I met are from the other side of the globe. You know, it's there. I truly embrace cultural differences because you can learn so much. It's unreal how much you can learn. And my supervisor is from Japan, and he and I spend a lot of time just talking about the differences between, American and Japanese culture, and I think that's really interesting because there is so many differences, and it's some things will make you feel kind of bad about yourself, and some things you'll feel very blessed about. Things that we're able to do in the United States versus in Japan, but I truly appreciate that. Yeah, I agree with you, Brian. Mike has definitely got one of the best channels I've ever seen in my life. Um, the community, I love the fact that he is aviation based, but I don't feel like that's really the purpose. I feel like Mike's real purpose is community and developing a positive environment. I mean, I love that about his channel. I don't know Mike personally, never met him, I've never shaken his hand, but I would love to one day. But I feel like I've known him for years, and he's a fabulous individual. I hope one day our paths cross. I really do. I really hope that one day I meet him in an airport sometime or meet him in a museum. It would be a pleasure to meet and hang out with Mike. But honestly, I feel that way about all of you. We're just a bunch of like-minded individuals that seem to have our heads on right and talk about airplanes. So to me, that's really awesome. Mark, I have had some interesting jobs. I again just being fortunate. But my very first job ever was cutting grass at that airport. That taught me a lot of humility. Work hard, good things come. Um, I think the airport owner got the better end of the deal, but it earned me a way to the sky, and I'm appreciative of that. After that, I did work at McDonald's for a little while, and that was a great job too because it taught me about teamwork. And I had a wonderful boss there. Her name was Kelly, and Kelly is still working today. And I occasionally run into her when I go visit my mom. And I have had the opportunity to go into that restaurant and and just hug her and tell her I appreciate what she's done over the years, and also tell the young people working from for her today to cut her some slack. You listen to her, she will teach you some great skills. So very appreciative of that. After I got out of high school, I went to work for a company called Phoenix Air, and then Phoenix Air is currently the largest Learjet operator in the world, and they use these Learjets to provide training services to mostly the Navy, but also to the Air Force, and I think even some foreign military organizations. So really neat, interesting opportunity I had there. I did that for a few years, and then I got sent on over to Delta Airlines, and that was in 1997. And I worked at Delta there until 2004, I believe it was. And it was time there was over, and I ended up at Firestone for a very short, brief time. I realized it was not where I needed to go. And then I worked for a company called FlightWorks. And FlightWorks was a Part 135 charter operation. They flew Gulfstreams, Hawker 800 XPs, some Cessna Citations. And I got a great experience there because I got behind the legal side of things. I became a regulatory compliance manager. So basically, what I did is I made sure that the pilots were flying by the regs, the planes were being maintained by the regs, and it was one of those busy, busy, busy jobs that I truly loved. Unfortunately, that company was not doing so well after 9/11 either, and so in 2006 I got laid off from there. So after that, I actually worked at a music store for a while. I played drums most of my life, and so at attempt just to keep working to bring in some sort of money. I sold drums for about a year, and then I got into construction and became an electrician and worked my way up to be a field field supervisor or foreman in that field, and did that up until 3 years ago, and that's when I made the shift over to working for a glove company and working quality, and so that's where I'm at today. So Brian, you think aviation is kind of slowing down? I think I think you may be right. I think right now we're kind of at a I think it may feel like it's kind of stagnant because technology is kind of burned out right now. We've had such an increase in technology. We have glass cockpits now that are just common. We've got touchscreen panels now. We've got auto land systems. We've got incredible technology in aviation, and I think we're at a point now where like there's just not any new ideas, and I think that happens from time to time. I think uh, I think we'll sit pretty settled for about maybe 8 to 10 years, and then all of a sudden new technology is going to pick up, and it'll boom again. And I think aviation is like that. It just kind of goes up, it stalls out a little bit and levels out, and it'll cruise along for a few years, and then another breakthrough will come up. And a lot of those breakthroughs come up through research and development through NASA. NASA is not just a space organization. NASA, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. So NASA at Langley, Virginia, does a lot of aeronautical research on making airplanes quieter, more fuel efficient. They make them more reliable. So they're constantly doing all kinds of research there. So things like that is really what triggers the next boom in aviation. I think we'll see it. Certainly got to keep promoting it and keeping things going. Uncle Mike. Uncle Mike. That's awesome. Yeah, he kind of has that uncle feel, doesn't he? Yeah, Uncle Mike. Yeah. I like that. I agree with you, Mark. I think as an aerospace educator, I have firsthand seen some of the thoughts and opinions of the public, and even with the space program, people are very negative about the space program. They think it's a waste of money. But then when you tell them about the spinoffs and what has came about because of the space program, they kind of retract that. I feel like they do. For instance, someone's holding an electric drill, a battery powered electric drill in their hand, but they're talking bad about the space program. When Black and Decker first created the very first battery drill for NASA for use in space, and that led to the development of battery tools, microwave ovens, cell phones, lipo batteries. There's been so many spin-offs from aviation and aerospace in general that it's usually the people who are against aerospace um, projects are typically those that just don't. They're not bad people. They simply just don't understand the 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 result. They see all this money being spent in aviation research and aerospace research, but they don't understand where that money's going and how it's going to actually help their lives in the future. So many medical breakthroughs have happened because of work done on the space station, and people for years have been like, "Oh, it's just a waste of money." Well, yes, it is a great deal of money, but I think I think it's probably been well worth it. And so, yeah, you're right. A lot of people don't understand the how important aviation and aerospace is, but it's up to people like us to be that voice. And that's kind of the that's kind of where I signed on with Civil Laboratory as an aerospace educator is to take opportunities to speak to the public, even if it's just a general conversation, sitting in a checkout line somewhere. I hear someone talking about how the government just approved the funding for NASA's SLS, and they don't believe it's worth it. And I could turn right around and say, well, hang on a second, let's think about this. So, and I love those conversations. I wish they happened more, but Yeah, it certainly is important. Certainly. Not seeing much 747 400s. Yeah, I think if I'm not, y'all can correct me if I'm wrong. I think the 747s is no longer in production. The 757 is gone, so I don't know what's next. Or I know that there's a 797 that's gonna be what's already debuted. It's already flown. Don't hear a whole lot about it right this second, but I think most, even during my days at Delta, the three engine aircraft were on their way out. Not too long after I started at Delta, the 727 was retired, and those were replaced with the 737-800, which I dearly loved the 727. I thought the 727 was great. Still do. Love those airplanes. But the 737-800 was just unbelievable. And I think they're so unbelievable to the point that I have 737-800 right here in the, some people call it the wavy gravy. I like to call it the colors of motion livery. But I love those planes. And then it wasn't too long after we got rid of the Lockheed L-1011 TriStars. Again, three engine aircraft. Um, and but the TriStar was an older airframe. They were getting up in hours or up in cycles, and not very fuel efficient. And then after that, the MD-11 was retired, which was probably a good thing. MD-11 was really costly maintenance wise, and so it's kind of a given at that point. So Delta got rid of all their three engine aircraft, and I think Delta's even retired all the 747s now too. So uh, three and four engine aircraft are just kind of the no goes these days. You've got the 777 that can fly internationally, uh, much more efficient than say a three engine jet MD-11 or certainly the 747. So I think everything's moving to more fuel efficiency, which obviously is lower cost for the carriers, which translates into lower airline tickets for consumers like us. So that's probably what they're really looking at. So 2023 for the 747. Wow. I thought it was a little bit more recent than that, but yeah, interesting. Atlas Air. Okay. Yeah. That's certainly before my time. Yeah, Brian, the 747 was truly a cool airplane, and it didn't have its original design was not to be an airliner. I think it was supposed to be a cargo aircraft, which is why the hump in the nose was going to be just where the people sat, and then the rest of the aircraft would be for cargo. But they later, being Boeing and having some good minded people, said, "Hey, we can do more with this aircraft," and so it became a legendary aircraft for passenger transport. So who can't love a 747? I mean, it's going to be sad when they're no longer there. It's going to be like um, it's going to be like I am about the Lockheed TriStar. I used to love to watch the L-1011 take off and land out of Atlanta. Really, really cool airplane. I was there when the last one at Delta flew, and they did a low flyby over the runway. It was spectacular. Uh, so good stuff. The big jets are fun. Yeah, it's really cool. But when the 777 arrived at Delta, and I think it was October of 1998. I was at work that day, and a buddy of mine came up and he's like, "Hey, the first 777's coming in tonight." And of course, I stayed and watched, and I got to see the first 777 roll in. And I'll be honest with you, my first impression as it taxied into the ramp, I was like, "What's so special about it? It looks like a 767," and it does. It does look like a 767 until it's parked next to a 767, and which they did. And then I ate those words. I'm like, okay, yeah, you're right. It's quite a bit bigger than a 767, and it's such a powerful twin engine jet. And I think that was the beginning of realizing that you can do just as much with two engines but at a fraction of the operating cost. Maintenance on a jet engine is extremely costly, and so you have to cut the cost some way. And I think air carriers were thinking at that point that the best way to do that is get rid of an engine, and so make it a two-engine jet. But Rolls Royce came through and delivered a wonderful engine, uh, and made the 777 possible. So good deal. Yeah. So all the 47s are on the ground. Yeah, that's kind of sad. It really is. That doesn't surprise me, but it is kind of sad. So I guess probably Air Force One then might be the only airworthy. Uh, I don't know if that's me. I don't know if that'd be correct for me to say that, but maybe the only one registered still. So I know Delta used to. There's only so many hours and cycle you can put on a plane it's carrying passengers, and then once you get to that point, the airline will sell them off to cargo companies. So a lot of the MD-11s that you saw with like UPS and FedEx were once American Airlines or Delta's MD-11s. They just take them and convert them to cargo aircraft, and then they strip them and repaint them. But I wonder if they'll do the same with some of the 747s. Uh, that'd be interesting. Yeah, the F4. I'm kind of backing up, Mark. I'm sorry, I kind of skipped ahead. Yeah, the F-14. I'm gonna be honest with you. Uh, I started watching a video of them destroying the F-14s. I about cried, literally. I understand why they did it. Um, During that time, I was at a CAP squadron, and we had a senior member who was a former Tomcat pilot, and he said the worst thing he'd ever witnessed in his life was being invited to see his bird destroyed. And at first, I was like, ah, yeah, yeah. And then I remember thinking about that a little bit later, and like, yeah, to me that'd be like losing, you know, losing a child or losing your a dog that was just super awesome. I can only imagine what John felt like watching a. He said they used an excavator that had a attachment on it, would literally cut the plane up. And wow, yeah, hard stuff. There's an F-14 near me, actually. It's about 40 minutes away at a museum. It's a D model. I think it was manufactured in 1990, so it is one of the later D models that had the GE engines. I may have to stop by there and take some photos of it. I know the one that Mike shows us quite often at the Aerospace Museum is also a D model, and quite a bit of history behind that particular Tomcat. So I'm a big Tomcat fan. I'm a big Grumman fan. Let's put it that way. I love Grumman. Um, because the plane I learned to fly was also made by Grumman. I don't Grumman used to have their hand in civilian aviation for a little while, and no longer does, and that's a shame. But I really enjoyed my little Grumman, which is that one right there. Um, but yeah, the Tomcat. Wow, what a great airplane! Even today, it looks like it's on the verge of brand new technology. Well, folks, I'm going to call it time for me to get into the house. But I've certainly enjoyed this time, and appreciate y'all joining in. And I'm going to actually say goodnight and goodbye this time and not just drop y'all like a leaf. But thank you so much. This has been truly a fun event for me. And I'm so glad y'all got to join in with me and take part in this first couple live streams. So y'all have a great night. And we'll do this again very soon. I appreciate it. Thank y'all all for everything. I appreciate y'all. Y'all have a great night. Gears down, three green. We'll see you next time.